Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Proving Grounds Pod, your one-stop shop for all things Proving Grounds. My name is Max, and I'm joined by my constant co-host, Cubby. And today, everyone, we are on episode 15, the first episode, or the last episode, rather, before we get into the Proving Grounds playoffs. And who better to share this astounding occasion with than our good friend, Kelsey Moser, of Evil Geniuses and of League of Legends esports fame. We're happy to have you here, Kelsey. How are you?
I'm happy to be here in general. So, a couple things I change, but it's all good.
Are those out for you before we get any further in?
Yeah. Please tell me that the couple of things are not the two co-hosts.
Well, that was the implication that I wasn't going to say it, guys. Come on.
Okay. Well, that one, those are the two things we can't fix, unfortunately. So
yeah.
You're stuck with us. But yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. We're doing this live immediately following the CLG Academy Barrage series in the Last Chance qualifier, the finals, where it did go all the way to 5 games, and Barrage almost reverse swept. And then Katsuri said, I would like a pentakill.
He talked it into existence, too. Did you see the previous tweet that he had? Where he's like, man, I have so many quads, I just want a penna. And then game 5, he gets a penna.
It's pretty amazing. That and Ocean Soul, both of those things did happen. So congratulations to Counterlogic Gaming Academy. Very glad that they really turned that around and qualified in the end as well.
Keel buff.
Doing so, with Keel. That's what I was getting at. Because I've been hyping up this kid for a while, ever since we got to see him on Columbia College in the winter. He did a great job there, and he's doing a great job back on Counterlogic Gaming. So I'm really excited that he's back, and glad that all 10 Academy teams are making an appearance in the playoffs coming up in 3 days.
My hot take didn't come true. I thought, at one point, I thought that Golden Guardians Academy was going to make it, but Prismal turned it around. Kelsey's own.
I'm not gonna give it all to Prismal. Like, as I've said before, I felt like the roster was pretty sleeper in terms of the talent that they had. So I'm glad that we're finally seeing them improve as a team and show off a bit. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, Yunbi and Rosethorn, I mean, they were there for a reason. They just needed a little bit more time, right?
Yep.
So yeah, good to see that pay off for them as not a bad squad there. But I think before we get into this, Kelsey, your role at Evil Geniuses real quick. I know that you have a fancy title, but what exactly is your role with that org at the moment?
Yeah, competitive and collegiate development league. I can actually say without looking it up now. But nice. It's progress. So I do a little bit of two things. One is on the business side. In a lot of the programs that we're working on with collegiate, some guys here might know Anthony Scala. He's pretty good, talks to a lot of college organizations about things that they can offer to students. Our collegiate Discord is pretty big. And then the other role is kind of how can we make the development process better in terms of systems from amateur to LCS. So I work on that. That's like a very vague way to say it, but that's more or less all I'm gonna say right now.
Yeah.
For Academy and Amateur. But yeah, I think probably I'll talk about it more as the year goes on.
Awesome. Hopefully you guys have some fun stuff planned over there. With all that good stuff, helping develop Amateur. And now that we have that out of the way, we get to talk Amateur for the rest of the time. So let's go.
All right, I'm excited.
Not just Amateur, Cubby. We also have all of the Academy teams that are playing against the top of Amateur. And
I think it's just like all Amateur now. I think that's the point.
Yeah.
It's just the gulag, right?
Well, is it all Amateur or is it all Academy, Cubby? Because some of the Amateur teams have some Academy players on them, or at least former.
That's true.
So,
former LCS even. So
exactly. Yeah. We would have had even more. Had it not been for the totally unforeseen departure of Solo Fide. My heart goes out to those guys.
I wonder if someone could have called that. Obviously, I'm not saying that to the players because so someone offers me that kind of money to play an amateur, I probably at least try to take it. Maybe I get a lawyer, but
Yeah.
Definitely alarm bells.
Reconsider.
Definitely alarm bells going off if I hear some of those numbers, for sure. But yeah, if I thought it was a sure thing, I'd take it. So
I would reconsider picking up the mouse and keyboard and hitting the solo queue grind if I was getting that. So I can't blame him at all. Not that I was ever that good to begin with.
Yeah,
but
not quite as good as Zazel.
Maybe not.
That's the goal.
I've never played against him though, so you never can tell.
Ooh, I actually don't know if I did when I was high rank. I was not high rank for long. For good reason.
Well, yeah. Well, anyway, just to give everyone some information on what this show is all going to be about, because if you're a longtime viewer of the show, which is cool to say, by the way, now we're on 15 episodes. If you are, then first of all, thank you so much. But as you can see, we do not have a player with us today, so we will not be doing an interview style episode. Instead, it'll be much more of a reflection and an introduction to the three of our expectations on going into the playoffs. So we have a lot of that conversation that we're going to be going over. We do, in fact, have a tier list of the teams that the three of us combined forces to create, and we'll be going over that as well. We should probably give that in a visual somewhere, Cubby.
I'm going to work on it. I'm going to work on it.
Okay.
I
did make the aggregate, by the way. You want me to send you the? You want me to send the document?
Yeah. So send me everything, and then I'll throw them up on Twitter, and then I'll just throw the link in here. If that's cool with everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah, nice. We don't want to obscure the faces of the talented co-hosts with a PNG file on the screen.
That's true.
Exactly.
We could put it over one of our faces. But yeah. Actually, that sounds way more fun.
I'm pretty sure most of the people come here to look at you guys. So
that's true. That actually sounds way more fun. So I'm gonna take one at a time. We'll throw them up. But all right, do you want to dive into that now? Do you want to go over my awards and make fun of me first? What do you want to do here, Smacks?
You know what? Let's make fun of you first, because we're still
it gives producer Cubby a little bit of time to do this on the fly. We'll throw that out there because I am not good at what I do. We're gonna be very frank with that.
Firstly, let me give you to the edit link. Oh, I don't know why that just happened. Okay, let me actually do this. There we go. All right, you guys should have edit access, and then if I can make a viewer link so that people can look at that too.
All right.
I'll just throw it up on the screen.
Okay. All right, chat. Here is what we're looking at currently. It doesn't look pretty, so beware. I made this very quickly, but you can see there.
Oh, I get it. I was supposed to. Okay.
Ooh.
I was supposed to put them in order. I get it.
Oh, did you?
No,
okay, well,
I did not. I didn't put them in order. I just want tiers. Yeah, I just want tiers. No, just do it. Just do it aggregate tiers, Max. So like drop it in, make a tier list where like it's everyone like balanced, and we can like you can edit it so like you can add like extra tiers. Do that.
I see. Well,
this is well planned, guys.
That will take some crazy retooling. That I will do later.
We
have this.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right, we're going in the studio mode. So while we do this and buy some time. While we do this and buy some time.
God.
I decided.
Okay, you know what? Okay, I put you guys 1 and 2, and they removed it. They made the executive decision to remove my points. So
yeah,
that's all I have to say about that. Once
we see it, we'll know why. Also, that's might be part of the reason why we had the had the disclaimer, right? The hey, I work for Evil Geniuses, and honestly,
yeah, exactly.
Your tier list is pretty OP, just based on that. That said, Smacks, if anyone would like to go first between the two of you, I do have the tier list loaded up and ready to push to live. They will be placed promptly over your face, as is now tradition on the Proving Grounds pod. And so we will not get to see you talk. We will not get to see you
throw
talk
mine up
about
there
it.
if you want. I'll get into mine first.
See, Smacks, yours is for me probably the one that I have the most disagreements with. So this will be fun.
That I understand. So do you want to get into the things you disagree with first, or do you want me to just ramble on for a bit? Because mine is in fact ordered. I did order each and every team on this.
All right. Well, then you are up first.
I separated them into tiers, but
it is over your face right now, so we cannot see you, and we just get to have me and Kelsey's reactions to this live. So we don't get to see Smacks do this. I actually, it's kind of scuffed, but I kind of like it. We're running with it.
Yeah, we don't judge him, but you can't be swayed by his appearance now. You have to only rate him on the tier list.
I do like
my physical charisma cannot sway you.
See, this is how we identify whose tier list is whose, right?
Perfect. Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
But as you can see here, I have the smallest tier in the S tier. And that is occupied by Team Liquid in first and Cloud9 in second. I think that those top two are relatively untouched. Also, just sort of like as an aside, I think that in general, tier lists like this, I go into them with the intention of, if you are within one tier of another team, then I am like pretty confident that you'd be competitive. But outside of that, I'd say that like it's pretty unlikely. So for like Team Liquid Cloud9, I'd say that 100 Thieves, Norg, and FlyQuest could take it to them. I think the S tier teams there would be favored, but I'd still think that that'd be a competitive series. But unfortunately for the Live Evilers out there, I'd say that Team Liquid and Cloud9 would probably have an easier time taking down anyone lower than that.
Okay,
that's true. All the way down.
No, why are you not using results-based analysis? That's my question.
It's amateur. What the hell, Smacks? Come on.
Yeah.
So let's do this. Let's have Smacks explain his, and then me and Kelsey will explain ours. Or no, we'll explain yours, then we'll pick fun at it. Because there are a few things that I don't agree with. But go.
Okay. So firstly, I think the thing that's going to jump out to people the most, if you haven't been paying like super close attention, is that I have TSM in last. I think that I'm pretty confident in this. I actually also am pretty sure that Cubby did the same thing.
It's fucking spoilers, man.
Yeah, sorry. But if you've been watching those, if you're watching the Arena of Legends games and you've been watching them in UGP, then I doubt you'd be too surprised at this. They've been playing rather disjointed. Their rookie mid laner has still been taking some time to ramp up. I think he's been
honestly
one of the better performing players.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he still has some champion pool issues, I'd say. The big problem for me has been Babip. Whether he's not fitting into the team environment, it's that one, or he has been overhyped as an individual. It's a little hard to say. It's the first one, but I think it's been pretty difficult for him this split as a whole. So obviously there's a bunch of like Smite memes around him too, which is not fun to have as a jungler.
Okay. So the first one that I will ask about is, why do you have EGP at the same tier as EG? Realize that I'm asking this, not Kelsey, because Kelsey probably can't really talk about this as much. Also, she has the evil tier, which is honestly pure the evil. But why do you have EGP at the same tier?
So I think that there are individual pieces on both teams that are capable of matching the other very well. For instance, I think that both of these bot lanes are very, very strong. Obviously, for you, Cubby, you had Shiro rated very highly in your stream yesterday for good reason. Shiro's one of the best performing bot laners in all of this year, I'd say, outside of like the LCS orgs and everything, or not orgs, but LCS teams. So like that league. I'm purely talking about Academy and Proving Grounds. Shiro has been looking very, very good. And while I think the same is true of Shoryu, and I think that's super competitive, I think that is really cool, and a really cool like dynamic of those two teams together. I also have a lot of faith in the way that Evil Genius's prodigies are like playing as a team. They've been together for quite some time, and I've really enjoyed that aspect of their play too. I will say that the jungle, which is usually the strongest point of Evil Genius's prodigies, is pretty heavily favored for Academy most of the time, but that's just because Contracts is so good. So that's really where like the biggest difference lies, I think. But other than that, I do have a lot of confidence in Evil Genius's prodigies, and I think that they will perform pretty well in Proving Grounds. Their first matchup is actually with a team that I think is worse than them, so I'm pretty excited for that match.
How can you say that when you've only just now seen the bracket and haven't had ample time to think about it?
Well, Kelsey, you know what? It's easier for me to just say this than anything else. I'm actually casting that match, so
nice.
Pretty excited for that.
Okay,
prep time.
Cool. Let's go.
Yeah, I have had some prep time. I'm pretty excited.
Let's go.
But yes, I guess that's a leak. But anyway,
nice.
It's about me, so I don't care.
Okay.
Cool.
Do you have any questions about this, Kelsey? You wanna? I can get
question
into
about
mine
this.
next.
Sure. You have Mirage in C above Wildcard and Zeus, which I think is interesting. Do you think Mirage is better than Zeus and Wildcard?
Yeah, I do. I think they've ramped up really well. To be perfectly blunt, DNA was previously a loss condition exclusively on this team, and he has grown into a win condition for the team, which is very cool. He definitely struggled in the series against Barrage. So the most recent thing that we saw of him was not the most flattering. Well, I guess he beat Supernova, so that's not even true. But I think the DNA especially has looked significantly better. I also think that's true of Hiyami. I was very low on Hiyami on a new Rising. I think that that may I know that I got a lot of flack for that, for not being super high on Hiyami at that time, but I did not like the way that he was playing on that team. But he's been working a lot better on Dignitas Mirage, whether that's because the coaching staff is stronger there, or some other reason, like he's working better with DNA or something. I think it's working well. So I think that this is sort of a dark horse team to go pretty far in the tournament, actually. Like I said, I think that any team in like a C tier could have a competitive series against a B tier team. So I think they have a pretty good chance to take some names that would be rather unexpected. Although I do think their first matchup is going to be kind of a wash. So
okay, last one. Why is Zeus in the bottom tier? I don't get that at all. I don't have them like super, like very much higher, but I feel like that's very low compared to everyone else.
Yeah. I think that they just play rather one note. And while I think that's really cool for like, well, it's cool that they focus less on individual and focus more on the team play. I think that's really neat. And personally, this could be a very long conversation if I get into it, so I'm gonna keep it short.
I think the rest of us
that
might,
is
so.
really. What's up?
It might be one that like we all go into because like that's a team that I think we all kind of rated actually very differently.
Yeah. The thing that I was saying is a really big tangent, if you let me, but I'm not gonna let me. Is that I think that this year for Proving Grounds is much more focused on team play rather than the individual, which is what Scouting Grounds is all about. So I think that's really neat for Zeus, and I think that they worked really well for that, and obviously they qualified in the first tournament they possibly could have. So really cool for them, but I don't know how much variety they're going to be bringing to the table. And I don't see like any of these players as really big standouts in a tournament like this too, which can be a little bit of a hindrance.
Okay, and then the last one, where would you have put Solifide on this tier list?
Oh, I thought we were all going to do that after.
Oh,
I can do that right now if you want.
Yeah.
I would put them right behind FlyQuest and A tier.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Smacks from the council?
You can flame me right now if you want, chat. We are doing this
Raheen's
live.
been leading India. Let me tell you, it's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Raheen's been leading India. I kind of love it. I actually really love it.
Yeah. I'm done.
Are you a big fan?
I am.
New, yeah. I mean, I like it. I like it when players talk back to commentators. I think it's good.
Yeah, they should.
Yeah.
Right? It forces us to be better too. Anyway, okay. All right, Smacks. I think that's pretty fair. Kelsey, you want to go next, or you want me to go next?
I'm good to go whenever.
All right, you know what? I'll go next. We'll let our guests go last.
Cool.
Just a reminder, by the way, before we get to Cubbies, just a reminder. This is D tier in this tournament. In the entire year, where we've watched like 50 or 60 teams duke it out, the D tier in this tournament is at least like A+. So just keep that in mind.
Wow, the backpedal.
True, but also they qualified the first event, man. Like
I know.
I don't think I put it.
I just want to throw that out there.
But yeah. All right, here comes the correct tier list. All right, so here we go. You'll notice that mine's a little bit more bottom heavy compared to Smax's, where his was like middle heavy, because I realistically think that the way that like I'm organizing this is like I think that these teams in the tiers are the ones like have a better chance to like win like an actual like the thing or take games or upsets, right? So like first off, my D tier, I think that those like Wildcard, Mirage, and TSM don't have any chance to do much. I think that like the odds of them dropping the first two best of fives and just going out of the tournament are very high. So that's why they end up in my D tier. From there, for C tier, I like for me, all the teams in here are like, they're all missing something, but something different that is like critical enough for me to like drop them in C. So like for CLG, I think that like the recent form's been better, but like even like in today, like I know like they won the best of five and I'm rating them lower than Barrage, right? Like I think that like on one of Barrage's better days, they peak higher. And that's like one of the reasons that I have them up there. And I'm not sold by CLG's bot lane. I think that they're going to struggle in this tournament, even though I know that Katsiri had a nice penta to wrap up the day. Immortals cannot play late game. Or once it gets past mid game, it's doomed. As Kelsey chuckles. Zeus Gaming, I think that they actually have a lot of really creative TP flanks that like makes them a big upset candidate and probably the biggest one in this tier for me. Just like because like Alorum can pull off a lot of shit that no other academy team might see coming. And also on a good day, Pocket Rhino can just like hard carry. That said, I don't on their bad days they look pretty bad as well. Like a lot of series that went to like 3 games that were close. EGP, I think they're missing a little bit of individual strength in this tournament, the solo lanes, as we move on. All right. And then Dig. I think Dig's actually the worst team in this tier for me. The tier above, I think that EG and Golden Guardians like showed a lot in Giant Slayer. I know that some of the better teams that already qualified for Proving Grounds were out. That said, I think that they did show a lot, and there were still 3 academy teams in there and really bounced back. I think that EG on their good day, if EG has a good day, they can vie with the teams above them the most. I think Barrage is the worst team in that tier. I did not order them in order. I just threw them in the tier. The other thing that you guys will realize is that I have Cloud9 ranked lower than Smacks and 100 Thieves ranked higher. I'm very high on 100 Thieves bot lane. I think that Tenacity Kenby in this tournament are just going to roll people with their hands. And I'm honestly not nearly as sold on Cloud9 as a team. Norg was actually the biggest question for me going into Proving Grounds because I think they're a really good team. But I think that the meta shift is going to hurt them a lot. And I'm keeping them in A tier because I have faith that those players can figure it out. But it's a lot harder to execute on top lane now than it was in the patches where they were getting all their wins. And then I think TL is the best team in the tournament. They proved that today. They 3-1 FlyQuest, and what was actually a pretty fun best of 5 to watch, even though it was one-sided for TLA in the end. I thought that both teams showed a lot of good stuff. And that's why FlyQuest is my A tier as well. So that was my thought process for everything.
Can you explain your reasoning? What you mean by it's harder to execute on top lane than it was?
Yeah, so like for Viper and for Anda, like the champions that they were really using to like power through top, Viper was playing a bunch of ADs in the top side. Anda was playing like Elise, Nidalee, Talia, and then was mixing in the Udyr later, but he was really actually kind of avoiding the Hecarim, the Olaf, the Lilia compared to a lot of the other teams. He was siding more towards like the AP threats. And I just think that like you can still play Bruiser's mid and carries top, but like with the meta and the shifts that were happening, Tristana's pretty meta defining. Jinx ended up being like a handshake that was kind of weird. And then I think that with Xayah coming back as well, it's a little bit harder to execute on like top side with Jace, like the champion that we probably see the most. And with Cho'Gath coming back, like you can bully that out early, but if you, a lot of the champions are more forgivable if you mess up early in the top side, where like if you get put really far behind, you can like still be worth something. Whereas like Viper and Anda were just blitzing straight up everyone in the top side, where they were playing like Gnar and a couple more carries that were more popular earlier in the year. Like my thoughts go to Camille. And if you put those champions behind, it's just GG. And so I think that it's going to be a little bit tougher for Norg to blitz the top side, because if they don't blitz top, we've seen them throw some pretty big leads. So, and with the elevated competition, I'm a little bit worried, but I have faith in Viper Anda, because those were hands down the two best players for me this year.
So where I debate you is that obviously they play Trist and Vayne top, which are both champs that do well into some of the tanks that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I don't necessarily see that as problematic. Also, one of Andy's best champions is Olaf. We're seeing less Olaf though. And I think he can play the Udyr. He's just more reliant on having primary engage from his support.
Yep.
Also, if he plays Hecarim, I think so for me, I also don't necessarily think it's harder to execute through top than before, especially given some of the picks that they were playing. So that's why I asked the question.
Mm-hmm.
Viper was also the best Gnar in the tournament too. So I think that they're probably going to be okay with doing stuff like that.
Oh yeah, no, he's really good at Gnar, but like I also like, I mean, when your top lane opponents, like the best top lane opponents in lane for Viper in this tournament would have been like PCL, Dokla, Lorem. When you go from that pool to a pool that includes Jenkins, Darshan's in there, it's a lot more competitive. Hauntzer's in there, even though I know the TSM we're placing rather low. It's a lot more competitive as you move up, and it's. I don't think Viper is gonna get the solo leads that he was able to. I think like they had good setups legitimately, but he's also not gonna just straight up handscap people with the leads later in the game. More Gangplank in Academy, which makes things a little bit harder for that too.
Right. How much does Wiggly CLG affect your ranking of them?
CLG would have been D tier with Wiggly, they're C tier with Keel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because to me, CLG in the last chance qualifier looked vastly better than they did in Giant Slayer.
Well, that's because the competition was
with
worse.
Keel. There's definitely a bit of that, right? But I do think that I do think you've got them pretty low. So in this C tier, where would you place it? Like
best team in that tier.
5 there.
They're the best team in the tier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's significant.
I did not order the tier like in the tier. Those are not in order. I should have. Yeah. If for that one, I would go Dig last, CLG first, Zuzi, EGP, Immortals probably second, third, fourth. I don't know. Okay. I don't feel like that strongly. Once again, I feel like if those teams, like if they have a good day, maybe they take a game or two off like some of the Academy teams, but I can't see them taking any best of fives off of the teams in the S tier, A tier. And the majority of those teams will be out in the first two best of fives.
Okay.
All right.
Trying to look at like the differences. What do you?
We want to show yours again? We'll pull yours back up.
No, it's okay.
I swapped C9 100 Thieves. I explained that.
Yeah. What do you
Zeus.
think is the problem in your eyes with Dignitas Mirage that puts them in D tier?
They can't individually compete with the people in this tournament.
Okay.
No.
I think that's a pretty fair assessment. I have a
Same goes for
feeling
wildcard, to be frank. And like there are some people like will do okay, but they like not well enough to like win 3 games in a best of 5 against like the majority of the other teams.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like you have the same feeling about Dignitas Mirage that I do about Zeus.
Yeah, but I think that Zoos like actually have like I think Darkwings and Alarm are good. And I think RBM like does his job. Pocket Rhino on a good day is fantastic, and then Raheen like out of lane doesn't make big blunders in team fights depending on the champion. Yeah.
Okay. Here's a fun question. How close do you think the Zeus TSM match is going to be?
Oh, I think Zeus wins.
That's not what I asked, Cubby.
Oh, how close? Zeus win 3-1.
It's a best of 3, I think.
Oh, it's best of 3? Okay, 2-1. I'll give TSM again.
I feel the same way, but I'm really like struggling to figure out like what makes me feel that way, you know?
Is it best
because
Oh, it is best of 3s.
Yeah, it's best of 3 until I think the semis.
Oh yeah, it's right. It's all best of 3s. My bad. Okay, that actually that changes up everything I was saying about best of 5s quite a bit. And like there's gonna be upsets, but like this is what I think going in, right?
Yeah.
So I'm excited for the amateur teams to prove me wrong, but I think it was pretty generous to my ranking, like for Barrage. To be fair, very generous actually.
All right, I have an argument for why Zeus would be TSM. Okay, so my argument for why Zeus would be TSM is effectively just the fact that they basically have more picks that they can execute well in mid. The problem that I see with this matchup is that the most abusable part of the TSM roster is just the fact that their juggle tempo is really, really weird, and RBF is probably one of the most notorious junglers for just like not backing and missing really major windows where like a skirmish is winning. So that's why I see like Zeus having not necessarily having the cleanest matchup versus TSM, but I do actually kind of expect them to win that, which is wild because you see my tier list, it doesn't look like that, but I'm thinking about it. And I think actually I expect Zeus to win because the only way that TSM Academy are consistently winning is basically by getting good recalls from support going through mid and then playing like mid jungle 2v2s well. And then basically from that, some of their games are really wild. Like things that Yurson does well, for example, is he separates frontline from the rest of the team with Gragas extremely well in fights, and then makes it easy for his team to get into the backline. But outside of that, I've just not been as impressed by him as I should have been. So this is the question that I have is that if Zeus like approach front to back fights and they have this kind of disengaged pick coming out of Yurson, is this something like they're gonna bring a lot of gauge? Disengage, counter gauge, because I don't like neither of these teams set up super well around objectives, and some of the best ways that Zeus gets their wins is by getting really good flank angles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just trying to think of like when it gets to those situations, that's where I think Zeus probably do better, just because TSM is always going to be phase checking late. TSM is always going to be in this situation where they're not going to play those fights well. And they kind of need to have like open fights so that your son can get those picks and split up the team so that they can get into the backline. The other thing that we talked about is I think that ultimately when you get into a situation, Raheen is going to be more willing to put himself into positions where he's going to do more DPS than Cody-san. So, yeah, that's kind of how I see it going, and that's how I see Zeus winning that matchup. My problem with Zeus is that just the fact that it's like I see both TSM and Zeus struggling a lot with the concept of like the jungle being able to have a lot of agency, based on the fact that their recalls are really off. They don't necessarily set up matchup-based win conditions, so there'll be situations where Alorum is playing the top lane matchup like really, really well and extremely volatile, but the jungle isn't in position to capitalize, just because he's doing another full clear, or he has to go get bot crab because he missed his window to get top crab. So yeah, that's what I'm looking for from Zeus.
I think that the one thing that I like about Zeus in this format, especially going up against academy teams, and one of the reasons that like have him higher than Smacks, is I think that it's best of threes, and if you want upsets or like you want to take games off of like academy teams, I think that actually throwing curveballs is really important. And I think that Zeus is one of the best teams in amateur throwing curveballs, just based on Alorum's ability to find flanks. Alorum and RBM both have some flavor picks, and RBM was like really leaning on Lilia, but he also played some Lee Sin in UGP, oddly enough, and that won him 2 games. And then I think that like I'm talking about like the volatility there, but they have nice stability as well in Darkwings and Raheen, who are Darkwings has gotten a lot more consistent as the split's gone on, and then Raheen, I know what I'm going to get out of Raheen as well. And if Pocket Rhino and Alorum have a good day and find those angles, I think that they think about the game like a lot more creatively than TSM does, and I think that they might be able to cheese them a little bit. So that's why I like Zeus a lot.
Yeah, as we were thinking about this, I was thinking much the same, Cubby, where for TSM Academy, it feels like they are at their best when there are very few surprises that happen in the game.
Hey, it's kind of like Wet Haunts are going to lead, and then they make a player too. Yeah.
For Zeus, I think it's safe to say that for me, the most surprising player this year has been RBM. So, in a good way, by the way. I did not think that I did not think that RBM had a Lee Sin, and then he did, and I was like, wow. Okay, because I remember the first series that we watched of RBM was his lock screen POV of Udyr gameplay for 2 games in a row, and I was like, huh. I don't know what to think about.
Want to know a fun fact about RBM? Want to know a fun fact about RBM? The first best of series that RBM played stepping into, at the time, I think it was a new Blaze, he had not played a scrim in 4 months, and had not played League in 4 months. Just playing TFT.
It was lock screen Udyr for 2 games. It was awesome.
It's just really funny because I think like there's this really stupid misconception in amateur and academy that if your team is not rated high, the players are dog shit. I hate that. I hate that so much.
Yeah.
Because there are teams that consistently do well that have players that aren't like exceptionally mechanically gifted. They just understand the map better. They understand those rotations better. So what I'm saying, RBM, you need to figure out your goddamn resets. I'm not saying RBM, you're shit and you should quit League of Legends. I'm saying you figure out your goddamn resets.
Yeah, pretty much
it. Yeah.
Get better. But no, I mean, like, props to him, right? He stepped in rather late and obviously not practiced. And yeah, so that's pretty funny. I got a kick out of that one. I learned that the other day. So good old amateur. As now, I think after that discussion, good lead into Kelsey's tier list.
Yay! This is my favorite.
I would say
on the screen. And featuring the Live Evil tier.
Yeah. What did I even put on my tier list?
Well, I can help you out here.
Here we go. I have a Live Evil tier with Evil Geniuses teams because they're obviously the best. And the only reason why a team like Liquid Academy was able to win that tournament was because Evil Geniuses was knocked out by the Kryptonite Golden Guardians, which are weirdly on B tier, but we're not going to talk about that. See, for me, tier lists are really difficult because I like to conceptualize teams in terms of matchups. So what does a team do stylistically well? And we talked a little bit about that versus TSM versus Zeus. And I would not be surprised if Zeus beat TSM. like at all. I actually think they have a pretty good stylistic favor just because the macro from TSM in terms of neutrals is really poor. It's one of the worst in the tournament. And I think the way Zeus draft and the way they play capitalizes on stuff like that. So even though I have them lower, and a lot of that just has to do with, identification of win conditions from the early game, identification of kind of, it's just like a lot of face checks into like good flank angles and teleports. It's very interesting how they play. And I think they get a lot out of kind of having creative mid lane matchups. You see a lot of kind of inconsistency in how they're playing. I remember there was one series that I was looking at where like Pocket Rhino had this one game where he just like didn't do anything. He just laid bot. He had perma pressure the entire time. I wasn't looking for good windows. And the next game he's looking for a lot more stuff on the map. He's recalling, going top. It was like he needed a warm-up game.
That guy's the ultimate burger flipper, by the way. I know we meme about that, like with Barrage. My burger flipper award of the year goes to Pocket Rhino because his bad games look bad. His good games are smurf as hell.
So yeah, that's like that's another thing is that I guess for me, like the D-tier teams, there's just like a lot of inconsistency on them. And then when I talk about Mirage, because that's the topic that you guys were going into, my main thing with them is I feel like to contested Dragon, they feel the need to give up a lot more than they need to most of the time. So I actually feel like they perform really well when Dragoon is like on a comfort pick, and then they play top side well.
Mm-hmm.
But then if they're giving up a lot of that lead, a lot of that pressure just to contest Dragon randomly, it feels really strange. I think Wildcard is a team where they have a really strong support. And we're seeing like they have very set strategies that I think are pretty smart based around, when they have a top advantage or when they don't. But I feel like a lot of these teams to make good plays, like the bottom tier teams for me, they give up too much. That's like my biggest issue. Immortals is kind of like this too.
Yep.
It's like C and D tier are a little bit back and forth for me, but it's like I feel like Immortals, TSM, Dig, Mirage, Wildcard, Zeus, like all 6 of these teams have, like when they're playing the map, they give up a lot more than they get a lot of the trades that they take. And they're not necessarily playing their win conditions, they're going to Dragon because you're supposed to go to Dragon. They don't necessarily have a way to set up side lanes to rotate to the Dragon. They're just, this is what we do. We go to Dragon. And then we fight 5v5. And that's like kind of my biggest thing when I'm thinking about these teams. In terms of, you can argue that that's like similar for Barrage, but their identity is a little bit more defined. I also think it's kind of true of Norg, but again, like they have a very clear, like they're good at playing the counter strategy early on. So when they do lose the Dragon setups, it's more, they're rotating late, but they can kind of brute force it a lot of times just because of how ahead they'll be on top side.
Also, this is why we all like FlyQuest so much, because they are good at that.
Yeah,
for what it's worth. They're one of the best teams at doing that.
Yeah. My prediction I wrote for Northern Arena today was actually ended up becoming pretty accurate because of how both teams drafted. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Let's start the question time. So my first question here is, I love the Live Evil tier. I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist for this.
Yeah.
Your top 5 consists of 4 of the same teams that Cubby and I do, except you have... Oh, first of all, is your B tier ordered?
No.
Okay. Would No Org be in your top 5?
I think so. I went back and forth between putting Norg and A and B. And the reason why I ended up putting, and that's why they're on the end, because it was like I legit just dragged them up and down.
I got it. Okay, well, never mind then. You have the same top 5 as Cubby and I. Okay.
The reason why, I mean, I don't, because I have EG and EGP in my top 5.
That's true.
You have the same 3 to 7 as Cubby and I's 1 through 5.
But the reason why I have this is because I actually think, because I was thinking about the direct matchups between 100 Thieves and FlyQuest Academy. And I think that you can actually create pretty easy snowball top one conditions against both of these teams. As much as I love Milan, it's definitely a thing that you can do.
We might have seen it yesterday.
So even though I feel like 100 Thieves and FlyQuest, like in the proper situation, will kind of set up better, because that was one thing that was always the unspoken point is how Norg are approaching dragons, and they don't really think about how different comps want to fight, as well as some of the other teams. So that's why I ended up putting them lower, even though I could feasibly see them win, because it was just like this was one criteria that you basically have to meet to be A tier for me, is to be able to like conceptualize how different team compositions fight in different scenarios. Whereas I feel like the B tier teams don't quite get there, and that's why I had no work on.
I see.
Yep.
Okay.
You talking about Tenacity, by the way, made me remember about his Volibear build, and I just got really upset for a second.
Oh, the Black Bear? Yeah.
Oh, man. If you're listening right now and you're an aspiring Volibear player, or your name is Tenacity, don't build that. You win.
Does that
Turbo
apply in the
Chem
Chain
Tank.
Lightning?
Well, it deals magic damage, the Chain Lightning. So I don't know. But either way, why would you build Black Cleaver on I get so upset. Like, I understand that it gives you movement speed now, and movement speed is good, but that's what the Turbo Chem Tank is for. And that's what Dead Men's Plate is for, and all of those items. So please, for the love of God, stop building Black Cleaver and Volibear. I will be upset. And Tenacity, if you're listening, I'm upset at you for doing this and for bringing this to my eyes.
I checked pro build, someday does it too, okay? So it's just the 100 Thieves top laner thing.
Okay. Cozy, if you do this too, oh my God, I better not see that. Anyway, now that I've gotten that out of the way, I think the elephant in the room here that we haven't touched on is that Cubby and I think that TSM is in D tier and you don't.
Yep. Yeah.
Why is that?
What is the faith?
So the main thing for me is just I really rate support rotations. I think we aren't seeing a lot out of the bottom three teams. I don't see very good uses of windows and support rotations consistently. So when you're against TSM, I feel like you're more likely to get like a 3v2 situation around mid. And those are the types of situations where they can't succeed. I think there are limited mid champs in which they do that, but I'm really high on the way sports play the map. And even though I think the option is one of the better sports in amateur, I think like they play a lot for bots, So that's kind of like there's not a lot of variation in where he sees his windows or how he uses his windows. So that's just kind of where I have these teams. By the way, I just want to preface this also by saying like I think ranking teams in amateur and academy is just kind of defeating the purpose of amateur and academy. But
it's too late, Kelsey. We already did it.
I guess not necessarily amateur, but academy for sure. Actually, not necessarily amateur, but academy for sure. Because the reason why is because it doesn't necessarily. You're not necessarily thinking about what teams are the best. You're thinking about how teams are developing talent in academy, right? That's more the criteria, and like how the prospects look. And I think a lot of people have difficulty separating, results from individual player performances, and even then, they have difficulty separating things that are knowledge based and things that are talent based that can be that they can, and the ability to learn. I guess. Yeah. So that's why for me I do find these tier lists problematic. I just had to get that I just had to get that out of my system. And the entire proving ground structure I also really have issues with, because it's like every day there's a tournament and this is not accomplishing the goal of developing talent. But That's for another day, maybe. You guys have probably already talked about this because I think that's not a unique opinion. Mm-hmm.
We talked with.
We certainly have, but we appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we talked with, I think specifically Zoo about it extensively, just given his background in both collegiate and amateur. That's kind of where our topic led us. And yeah, I mean, we talked about it too, like from even broadcast perspectives. I know like they want to get eyes and exposure on this, but it's not even healthy for that, being forced to compete against LCS, right? It's not ideal. Or like Northern Marine, I know it popped up last second, but that competing with the NSG streams today, like they need to spread things out, not only for the players to get some more time to develop and like actually have time to practice and get better at things, but also like that's going to help get eyes on it too, right? You don't need league running 24/7. It's not going to help these guys improve. So, yeah, that's definitely a topic we've hit on. And yeah, I mean, like I think the tier lists are fun. It's a nice way to like get discussions going about the teams, about like things like we agree and don't agree with. But I've just been staring at this bracket now that was leaked to us. And is there any particular matchup that you are excited for?
If you noticed, though, by the way, I just wanted to also sorry.
Go ahead.
I also wanted to say that I didn't really talk about like how individual players match up. I talked about what teams do, and that's what I do when I rank teams. So yeah, I think that's also a clear distinction to make because I've always my entire career I've always kind of hated like top is better and mid is better, jungle is better, so they win. But that's anyway. Continue.
So that's why Norg went down a tier, right? Because you can't just win from Viper and get better, right?
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah. Also, for what it's worth, that's what I was sort of getting at when I was talking initially about how this season is more about team play than individual play. Because the best way to get noticed as a player this year is to be on a good team and then play against Academy. Whereas last year it was to be a really good player on a team or not, and then make scouting grounds. Because this year, for like, I'm going to use like War Machine Hyper as an example, because he's top 10 challenger right now. He's really high ranked. He probably will stay there for the entire year because he's really good.
He's still jungler.
He's not on a team. Well, he's not on a Proving Grounds team, so he's not gonna.
Yeah, but he's on
get
ISU,
noticed.
right?
Right. He's in collegiate,
yeah.
But he's not in this system, right? And for like what Scouting Grounds was last year, this is the system that if you're an individual and you want to go pro, is looking like the way to do it. And for him, he's not on like a winning Proving Grounds team, so he's not in that conversation. He doesn't get that same opportunity to go to the main event, even though he's like top 10 challenger. So
yeah,
that's one of the examples that I mean when I say something like that. But also, just obviously being on a really good team is going to help you out a lot. So one other example, I have a very high opinion of Value. I think Value is very good. If that was Array would be like very highly regarded and instantly like noticed by all these teams because he's on Norg, right?
I mean, I've made the joke that I could win on that team playing AD, right?
Or like if Wixie was on that team, it'd be the same, right? Wixie, either one of those guys would be in Proving Grounds on the best amateur team and playing against like all these teams and doing very well, right? I'm not taking away anything from Value. Value's very, very good. He's really good on that team. That's just how it is, right?
Yeah. No,
so I think that's a really interesting part of this season. I've been thinking about it recently.
No, anyway. It's a struggle I had yesterday, right? Because I know Value's good, but like the team is not made for him to shine as an individual, right? It's just not.
Value, if you're listening, I love you, and I think you're one of the greatest players in this Proving Ground circuit.
We've also
throwing that out.
I've also talked about how like academy teams, even like if you want to make LCS, right, from academy, it's not better. Performing well individually doesn't get you there like going to C9. Obviously, we have Dignitas, and I'm not remotely biased on this, but two players that got picked up by that roster are doing very well, and they weren't super high valued commodities in off season. They just weren't. So
That's because a lot of scouting is still very results based. So like top two academy teams will always get looked at first. And so again, like I just kind of, if I can do something to change that, right, it would be to start talking more about individual players and things that are good about them outside of how they are playing. That's purely map movement or purely kind of things that are learnable. So
yeah. All right. I feel good. I feel much better knowing that I got that tangent out of the way. Thank you for obliging me, my fellow podcast friends. But anyway, let's get into this big topic. So, for those of you who do not know and are not aware, the Proving Grounds playoffs format has been known for a little bit, and is becoming very official and very widely seen now because the teams are starting to line in. They're all aligned now. It's in 3 days, right? So basically, what the format is a double elimination, just 16-team bracket, straight up. The first round has Cloud9 Academy as the first seed, playing as Dignitas Mirage as the 16th seed, and it goes all the way down. It's just a big old bracket, and it's happening for the entire month of April, basically, starting on the 30th. So yeah, we're getting into that, and I think Cubby, you were saying that you wanted to talk about like individual matchups and things here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. Like now that we see the bracket, is there any matchup right off the bat that like really sticks out to you? Because I have a couple that stick out to me like sore thumbs that I think are really interesting actually in the first round.
The biggest one we actually already talked about, in my opinion, which is Zeus versus TSM. We already touched on that one quite a bit. But yeah, just to rehash, I think that matchup is pretty close.
The interesting part about that too is that Zeus beat them. Am I right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, they 2-1 them. So that's also what makes that even more interesting now. So obviously more time with Yurson. I think Yurson like just stepped in for that tournament, no? He was a mid-tournament sub, right?
He was not playing for that game. He played for the Norg series where he swiftly was O2'd. And then he was out. But that's
Norg for you as well.
And that's the last we've seen of him since until Arena of Legends.
So I think
yes.
I'm gonna give a nice little superlative over here. I think actually one of the most interesting matchups in the first round is just two teams that none of us really rank that high, but it's Dignitas Academy versus Wildcard, because I think the strongest part about Wildcard is their bot lane, and I'm not that high on Dignitas' bot lane. I think that Spawn's still developing, and
really,
JJ not as good of a roamer as Daption is, even though they play through Daption. I think that
Zoo played CLG,
right?
Zeus did play against. Actually, yeah, I think you're right. I'm pretty sure Zeus played against CLG.
Because I can't. Yeah,
let me check. Was I wrong on that? I could have easily been wrong on that.
Playing TSM, so I went back and checked.
I could have easily been wrong on that.
Because Norg, they lost to Norg. Was it Norg both? Oh no, it was Winthrop.
Yeah, TSM lost.
Well, they lost to Winthrop, and then they had to beat him to get back. And then you're right. They played Norg in the.
They lost a game to Winthrop. Then they lost to Solifida.
Yeah, they didn't lose the series.
Yeah.
So that's
my bad.
What it is.
My bad.
There it is.
Yeah. They lost to Solifida. Then they
played. Yeah, TSM played Solifida. My bad. That was Norg Zeus.
Yeah.
Zeus beat.
Speaking of Solifida, just another thing. If Solifida were in this tournament, the TSM would be starting the bracket against Norg, which is a significantly tougher opponent, but I still think that TSM is probably going to lose to Zeus. So that's just something. Anyway,
wait, Solifida?
Touching on what...
Oh, that would have been the start?
If Solifida was in, then they would be seeded 9th, right? So then TSM would have played against Norg, yeah.
Holy shit.
But anyway, touching on your matchup that you mentioned, Dignitas Academy wildcard, I do think that Spawn is very good. So when you say bot lane pair, not super sold on that. I do think that Daption is significantly better than JJ, though.
That's why I said bot lane pair.
Yeah.
The wildest thing to me about TSM, about a Dignitas Academy, is that they're super experienced players on that team, right?
Yeah.
They still lane like their first year academy rookies. It's pretty nuts. Like, I don't know why. It's indescribable to me. It's just like they never worked on it. No one ever helped them. I don't know. It's very bizarre. So like most of the time, it's maybe not first year, but pretty close.
Yeah.
I feel like Yusui gets lane advantages like just by cheesing. Not really paying attention to waves. It's pretty crazy.
Orlo's Jace was pretty rough too in the Arena Legends tournament.
I think that wildcard, the biggest concern I have is Acadian versus Panda, but if Panda gets Udyr, I think that wildcard actually has a good shot. And Acadian doesn't strike me as one that wants to play the Udyr. I think that he would much rather take the Olaf side of the matchup or play his Nidalee into it.
I think Acadian would play Udyr. But
I mean, he would, but he prefers other counters. Panda is like the Udyr main, right? He's Udyr hacker room duty.
Yeah, Panda's I mean, he might pull out the Jarvan, you know? You never know. The Panda champ pool.
The old school. If Yusui wants to keep on counterpicking with Cassio, then Jarvan doesn't become that bad.
So that's where I see there being options for wildcard to succeed, because I do think that there's a lot of like cute things that wildcard do, to use Cubby's phrase, I guess. With things like Shenalties, and I would like to see them be able to execute those things in more situations, but like I can see them, getting advantages off of that aren't punished. But I just still think, like, again, Dig Academy can just be a jungle get too.
Yeah,
I think that's really fun.
I think that
really
that
good. I'm glad
matchup
you called that out.
That matchup's actually very interesting to me, because I know that we weren't that impressed with Dig's macro, like going in review over their series versus 100 Thieves, where, to be fair, they did punish some blunders from 100 Thieves, but they were dropping a lot of sideways, so this wildcard will do as well. I'm a little bit concerned about the top side, because like they do have a lot of experience on the side of Dignitas up there, and I don't have full faith in Panda if he's off his champion pool. But also, I mean, if the Voldabear flexes are going to become a big thing in this tournament, that's a lot of steadiness that I think a team that has like a weaker topside can use to kind of band-aid that, and also like play towards pretty consistent win conditions. And you can punish some of those landing mistakes with Voldabear that you were mentioning from Dig in the early game, right? So it's gonna. I think it's gonna be kind of interesting, that matchup actually. The other one that sticks out to me, I think Norg versus Golden Guardians Academy. That's actually a match that we've seen a couple times thanks to Cup. I think Norg clean sweeped them. And gonna have to see. Or Prisma won the AP Twitch game, but
that's true.
We'll have to see if GGA can keep on improving and bring something back to take. I think that might be the matchup between the strongest teams that we have. I also will say this: I think that EGP can definitely beat Immortals. I think that's the other one where I'm very interested.
I think so too.
That one's doable for sure.
Yeah,
because obviously
the matchups you said are played
on
April Fool's Day.
The worst day in esports. I hate all the April Fool's content. I'm sorry.
Are we gonna get a League of Legends prank on that day?
I hate all April Fool's content. Moving on.
The thing about Norg versus GGA is I do think GGA have gotten better.
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
For significantly since the last time I played Norg. So it's a pretty interesting matchup to me. I still think it's going to be, I mean, just the way they set up and execute top juggle 2v2s is the best in Amateur Academy, Norg. So I'm really curious, because I know a lot of inexperienced teams don't react well to them. So that's what I want to see. That's what I'll be watching for. But I think if it gets to, we're face checking into Dragon, then that's a situation that Golden Guardians Academy is happy to take, because they'll play more front-to-back comps and utilize their AD carry better. So.
Yeah, I know that Yunbi specifically as well was like one of the highest farming mid laners that we had in the tournaments that he was participating in. And it's really tough when you give Norg blue side and 5 Fire just can pick Set and TF and just kind of take advantage of the R4 Warrior Victor coming out from GGA usually. So we'll have to see if they have gone back to the drawing board with that. The other matchups that have been filled in on the sheet are 100
They're all filled in.
Well, yeah,
I can tell you what they all are.
Well, yeah, it's 100 Thieves Academy versus CLG. TL Academy versus Barrage. That's a blower of a draw for Barrage. And then
Cloud9 is against Dignitas Mirage. Yep.
Yeah.
To give you the full schedule, by the way, the first day that's happening is the 30th. That one's C9 Dignitas Mirage versus, and then the other one is FlyQuest Academy versus Evil Geniuses Academy.
That's actually a really exciting
I'm pretty
match.
excited about that one.
That actually is the best match. That's the best match.
That'll be good.
That hands down is actually the most competitive match that we have.
Fly Academy versus EG Academy?
Yeah.
I mean, you say it's competitive, but I'm just saying.
I forgot about the medieval calculations. I apologize.
Yep.
I think that of how we rank the teams, that's probably the matchup between the two highest ranked teams that we have. That and Norg versus GGA.
Yeah, those are the two for sure. Yeah. That's really exciting. Yeah. That one's good. That's on the first day too. The second day has Zeus Gaming versus TSM, and then 100 Thieves Academy versus CLG Academy, which is a matchup where Hooks gets to play against his Zoomers again, which I'm very excited for. The day after that is April Fool's Day with Dignitas Wildcard and Norg GG. You don't like the 100 CLG one?
I mean, there is a chance.
I think it's gonna be close.
Some of the 100 Thieves drafts have been weird, so there is a chance that CLG win it, but I think it's probably going to be pretty decisive by default, so we'll see.
I like Keel. That's all I'm going to say. I like Canvy too, but I do like Keel. That's all I got. Moving on, we have Dignitas Wildcard, Dignitas Academy Wildcard, and then No Org Golden Guardians Academy. That one's on April 1st, and then the last day of the first round is Friday, a week from today. And that is Immortals Academy, Evil Geniuses Prodigies, and then Team Liquid Academy versus Barrage. So yeah, that's all the first round. And then after that, we get into losers bracket, winners bracket, and then all the way through. There are a lot of games, by the way. There are so many.
Yeah,
I'm actually really surprised because they're kind of mimicking the EUM format. That was like the original concept, right? So I'm really surprised that they went with this instead of going for like a group stage.
Yeah, I thought groups would be dynamite.
We talked about that on the show where they had 16 teams and we're like, what if Worlds format? And then they didn't do it. But that's okay. If this is a lot of League of Legends, and I'm all for that. If I get to just watch all these games, then
can't wait to be proven wrong with all the guesses that we had coming in. I'm actually excited to see a lot of the teams that we haven't seen compete. Like we haven't seen No Org, we haven't seen TSM Academy in a while, right? Same with Zeus, and so I'm kind of excited to see how they come out of the gate and have adapted to the patch.
We've definitely seen TSM Academy recently.
Oh, that's true. We just didn't see a lot of them because they dropped out immediately.
A lot of losses.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Yeah. I actually thought that they could win that the series against
the Dignitas one. Yeah, I did too.
It was just Tristana diff, guys. It's just Tristana. Yeah.
Do we want to hit on Northern Arena today at all with that final? With TL taking a 3-1 over FlyQuest.
It was going to be a 3-0. For what it's worth.
No, man. Game 1 should have been won by FlyQuest.
No, actually, that series was way closer.
It was.
Than it should be. Been.
The series was, yeah, but Game 3 definitely should not have been lost by Team Liquid.
You think so? I feel like that composition, if you look at that draft, it's almost unwinnable.
I mean, don't get me wrong. They landed like the dream seed, but
yeah,
at that stage of the game, I mean, the big throw was Game 1.
Even when they had like a 4K gold lead earlier, I was like vibing, chilling with Mazzella, going, yep. Eventually, they can't answer the side lanes. Eventually, if Team Liquid tries to come into them, I was amazed when they picked Victor on 4. And then Team Liquid answered with Volibear. My mind was just completely blown. I was like, really? That's what you're doing? That's the pitch.
Trying out the bear, and You know, it's
I
got a very high win rate.
I feel
right
like the
now,
bear has
but
kind of replaced Gragas in that flex position, and I don't know how I feel about it. I like Gragas a lot.
I hate it.
Yeah, I
But
like Gragas a lot.
you
yeah,
guys are just bear haters. I like Bear. He's fun.
I like the
Gragas-
bears.
Did you see
The
the Sunderer Zonia's build in LEC today?
The
That
Volbear
made me
did?
laugh.
I haven't caught
Yes.
LEC yet.
nice.
It
Yeah, I haven't caught
It
up.
was Divine Sunderer Zonia's. I loved it. It was so funny.
Jeez. Blippo with the
Yeah.
dark technology.
Now it was not even the worst build in that series. It was the Muramana Ari from Blue.
That one makes a lot. That one kind of has some sense to it, though. I think.
I don't know. Oh god.
Beer Man is a
That,
weird
that
item.
was a fun series.
Yeah.
Not on range champions for mages. It's good on there are 2 range champions that's good on. Actually 3. It's Varus and Sivir and Ezreal. If you're a range champion and you're a mage, don't build that item. I promise. It's bad. But I have come around to it being good on Silas. Strampus has shown me the light, so
I see.
I think that's okay. But yeah, the reason you build this item is because it gives you like 90 attack damage. So if your champion can't use 90 attack damage, then you better be a melee, because then you can actually use the passive damage. If you're
Mhm.
not, then you just have a 90 attack damage item for no reason. So
Huh.
that's that.
Okay.
I'm down for some Ari auto attacks. Have you never played
I am
80
not.
carry Ari?
I also
just
really
go like Lichbane or something.
the
play
other
that.
thing, I really don't get Volbear in this meta when like all the 80 carries are so vulnerable to displacement at the moment, like minus Kai'Sa.
Well, you see,
yeah.
Cubby,
I know the
Volgar's
Trist-
way easier
I
than
know
Gragas.
Trist as well, but yeah, dude, you get to control the wave for free at distance as well.
So,
like it's so
you,
free.
You say Volibear is like way easier than Gragas, and I don't necessarily disagree, but except for I guess you can play if you're playing like you can take Volibear, it's a little bit easier,
Mhm.
but it should be so easy to just zone Volibear out of situations most of the time.
Yeah, you
I
definitely
just-
should.
I can, and then so Volibear top always has like a scrim bias, right? Because
Right.
mid laners and scrims, they play like psychopaths, and then they try to 1v1 each other, and then Volibear is suddenly missing from top lane, and a mid laner dies, you know? But that rarely happens kind of in an official match. If
Yeah.
Volibear missing from top, and the other mid laner backs off because he's secretly a scaredy cat and doesn't want to live his life to the fullest, but that's just the way it is.
Doesn't want to throw the gauntlet down mid.
Doesn't want to try to 1v2 the Volibear and whatever
Yeah.
else is mid.
Kelsey, that's
doesn't
how we
wanna do
kicked off the amateur season. We had DNA versus Captain Shrimps, the Oriana Syndra 1v1, the mid lane. Level 1 first blood, no sums used.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
That's what it's all about.
Why did you bring that up, man?
But I think for me, Volibear. So I really like Volba Jungler right now. I think there's a lot of easy setups. You can use Fog of War really well. He clears very fast and very healthily. Volibear top end. I can't do it.
It's a bait pick. It's a bait pick.
Like you crash your first wave, and unless you get something super impactful off of that, you just are already slowly be losing relevance. And then by the time, if your team is relying on you to be a front line, like good luck, because you're basically paper later. So it's a fun time.
It's also in lane. The only reason the Volibear ever comes into meta is because people forget that you can't take extended trades against him, and then it's just super tragic. Like if you get hit by the W and then you actually trade with him long enough where he Ws you again, then you are trolling so hard against this champion, and people keep forgetting that. So PSA, I guess, for top laners, if you're against Volibear, just shoot him once with your auto attack. Even if you're Renekton, just like walk up, Q him, walk away.
It's almost
'Cause
like
you're
you
not
could
going to win extended trades.
play Gragas and use the barrel to control the wave and zone him, and not take extended trade smacks.
And Shen,
Braggers.
I'm not referring to any particular top laner when I talk about Shen versus Volibear, but you have a thing called an empowered auto, right? And
Yes.
and then it would be great if you could use those and then just stop engaging. That'd be cool. Yeah. That'd be nice.
It was not a great. I
Super
refuse to
curious.
recognize that on the cast today, but it happened.
It happens. You know, it got better with the last series that it was a thing, but yeah, it happened.
Yeah. Oh God.
All right. Thank you for listening to the Volibear rant, everyone. I
Yeah,
hope
that
you
was fun.
enjoyed. Yeah, so that's the bracket. Again, starting on March 30th, and yeah, really excited to get into that, and I mean the whole season has been building up to this, so yeah, just super fun. As we're kind of winding this down, I think it's been a little over an hour at this point, if my math is correct.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show today, Kelsey. It really does mean a lot. I personally, for me, this means just so much because I remember like 5 years ago now, I was listening to you on League Weekly every single time I watched. I watched.
I can't believe people watch that show. I just can't.
I don't know if other people did. I certainly did though. And now that you've joined my show for this episode, it just means a lot.
The Live Evil game.
Thank you so much from a very long time and big fan of yours, Kelsey. It means so much.
I'm just glad that most people in amateur have been pretty chill and welcoming. So I've enjoyed like getting to know a lot more people in the scene, players, coaches, managers, commentators. It's been a good time. So I'm always down to watch some good video games, and amateur provides entertainment and quality video gaming. So there you go.
Results-based analysis.
Yes, I'm just here to results-based analysis is everywhere, man. I don't know how to get rid of it, so it's just the way it is.
That and age bias. That's what we're tackling. 24/7.
Age bias.
Yep.
Yeah.
RIP age bias. I got nothing else, Max. This is a lot of fun. Great episode. Thanks for hanging out with us with the tier lists, and excited to watch all the salty people prove us wrong. And as we get started with Proving Grounds, which starts up in only a couple days, it's gonna be really fun. And a lot of good action, a lot of good games we're going to have to see.
Yeah. I had one more thing scheduled for this show, and it's going to leave us on a rather somber note, so I apologize for that. But I do want to say one last bit about Solo Fide. To the 5 players and the coaching staff,
Sojin and Jito.
Sojin and Jito. Thank you, Kevy. I just feel for you guys, man. It's been really long season. Lots of games, as I'm sure the 7 of you are aware. And I really wish that we got to see you guys take your deserved place in the tournament. And I know that we're all going to be missing you. Except for maybe Dignitas Mirage. And I wish we got to see some more of you guys play. I really hope to see the 5 of you next split, as I'm sure everyone does. Special shout out to Jean, because he was on our show, and we're good buds. So to you and the
my friend
Jean.
My friend Jean.
My friend Jean.
You had to say it with the accent too. Yeah.
Yep. Friend of the show.
My friend of the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for participating in this tournament. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you guys in the space. I am sorry that your org was shit, and I'll leave it at that.
And with that,
yeah, definitely on that. I also kind of want to one just piggybacking off that. I want to address one thing, which is just there was a huge narrative that painted Solo Fide as kind of the villains, right, of amateur, and I think that was always directed more at the org, and a lot of that was the way they put their team together was whoever's going to sign the contracts, and that's something that I felt, it kind of sucked. But I think that the players made a lot with that, and they were always fun to watch. And I'm glad that the players themselves always kind of accepted the villain thing. And I feel like it was never really directed at them. It was mostly just directed at the org itself, and hoping to see them around, and that they join either some Proving Grounds teams or, I don't know, even better, something else in summer. So,
cool. No, the players super cool. Fucking sucks for them, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Smacks. With that, where can you find us?
Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. This has been episode 5 of the Proving Grounds pod with Kelsey Moser. You can check us out on all of our audio platforms. We got Twitch, YouTube, Spotify, we got Google, we got Anchor, and we got Apple. Check us out on all of those, and also our Twitter at pgroundspod, where you can get all of our updates. And I personally am going to make it a point to tweet more on that account. So if you want to see more meme tweets from me, definitely give us a follow. Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been episode 15. We will be back with another episode next week sometime. It's probably going to be Friday, considering the schedule for Proving Grounds. We're probably going to adjust that, but
time for a couple
more information on that to come.
Smacks.
Oh yeah, we'll be bringing you lots of content. Definitely check that out. If you aren't, feel free to join us on our Discord too. We post some updates there. And with that, thanks so much for tuning in. Have a good night, everyone.